Hey, what's happening, gamers? It's the Kwings. We're back with Super Megaforce, and it's time to learn about the Power Ranger series that could have been in 2002, the Hexagon Rangers. Think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but with Tommy as, Nick Fury, basically.
Yeah.
And this is a very out there show, I will tell you that. But it does bring back the feud between Tommy and Jason in ways that you didn't think possible. But more on that in a sec. So the Armada is here. How dare they ruin such beautiful nature? We gotta stop them before they damage it. Because, nature is important, which it is. But Power Rangers...
Yeah, don't litter, I'll punch you in the face.
This is what Power Rangers do to litterers. Power punch.
Exactly.
Alright, so... the Hexagon Rangers. Basically, this idea started with the Power Ranger writers during the Turbo movie and into Forever Red and, of course, Power Rangers in Space with the death of Zordon. But when Jason turned evil in the Turbo movie and he was beating up Jason, we could see that the two weren't really the super best of friends. Like, in the back of their mind, there was this kind of, frenemies aspect to them.
Yeah.
And the writers were like, why don't we play with that a little bit? So when they brought Jason back for the Forever Red movie, they had him as kind of the bad boy. Like, he hadn't quite recovered from what Divatox did to him, and, he's not the same Jason that we knew and loved. He was kind of a bad boy. Not, evil, but, kind of like the anti-hero now. And he shows up at the last second for the Forever Red movie, or team-up episode.
He does things his own way.
Yeah, he's like, you're not going to do this without the original Red Ranger. Because it was a group of Red Rangers going to save the world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And he even calls the Wild Force Ranger, which was his show, he calls him Rookie repeatedly when they're fighting off enemies. He's like, all right, Rookie, I'll show you how it's done. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was pretty exciting.
Yeah, this Hexagon Ranger thing sounded really cool. It would actually, not only would it kind of make people get rid of the feud, I feel like it would oh, sorry.
So much for the feud.
Over.
Game over. That's all right.
But I feel like it would kind of take care of that whole feud so people weren't always
Green Ranger's weak.
Thinking about, it's like there's all this unresolved conflict with the fans, so I feel like it would help that. And also, you said that it actually would have explained a lot of things that made no sense with continuity.
Oh, yeah, like how the Power Rangers got their powers back and things like that.
Yeah.
So, essentially, the idea was, after Power Rangers in Space, after Zordon died, and you had the closure of Wild Force, and right when they were adapting what became Power Rangers Ninja Storm, which was Hurricaneger or whatever in Japan, they had, Tommy come back, and even in Forever Red, he was kind of foreshadowing his role in this upcoming series that was, being written by the writers and Tony Oliver and stuff like that. And Tommy was going to become this guy who would be like Zordon, but he wouldn't quite get Zordon's vision, so he'd become Nick Fury and lead this group of not only new Power Rangers, but have a large group of Power Rangers that he knew that would work with him. So we'd have the Zeo group, some of Mighty Morphin, some of Wild Force, etc., etc. And he would command them to do all this other stuff. And the Power Rangers would now be like a military force, kind of like what we saw in Lightspeed Rescue, but even more so.
It would be like S.H.I.E.L.D., basically.
It would be like S.H.I.E.L.D., and Tommy was the leader.
You were describing it to me like it would be like the Pentagon, but it wouldn't be a Pentagon, it'd be a Hexagon, because a lot of the Rangers have 6 people.
Yeah.
And then you said it would be hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of people that work there. It would be like an impenetrable place. Then all the public would know where they were. And it would kind of you were telling me that it would kind of give people an idea that their past Ranger people that they knew were still working behind the scenes.
They didn't just disappear.
They didn't just disappear. They're not just unemployed in the soup line or something.
Will Ranger for food.
Crying in a corner no one remembers me. They actually.
I used to be great.
People actually they actually have a purpose and they all work together behind the scenes nowadays. So it's kind of it would kind of, I don't know, it would give people,
So if you guys remember Power Rangers Ninja Storm, it was to be the next Power Rangers show, and it revolved around 3 Rangers, a blue, red, and yellow, and they were ninjas. And even in their show, what finally did come to be, they hint at, like, there is a shared Ranger universe, and there's, like, another group of Ninja Rangers, like, all over the world, but they're just these ninjas in training. What they were originally going to do that, didn't happen was they were going to be Tommy's Rangers, the new cadets that are in training, and instead of being called the Ninja Storm, they would be called the Hexagon Rangers, based after, of course, Tommy's Hexagon base. That would be like a giant command center.
Yeah.
And the villains would not just be adapted from the Hurricane Ranger series. They would be from all over the place. Like a lot of loose ends, like Prince Gasket from the Machine Empire would be back. Scorpina from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers would be back as a villain. Putties would be back. Cogs, Tengu, like all kinds of different enemies.
It's kind of like when you watch Doctor Who, how they bring stuff back from the really old.
Exactly.
It's like they still acknowledge the really old stuff. That is so cool. That would have been amazing. And that's why Doctor Who is so awesome.
That is why Doctor Who's awesome. It's one of the reasons.
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Wow, that doesn't sound like Tommy at all. Tommy's like all like hyper and stuff.
Yeah, so continue. Continue gaming.
Okay, so Tommy has become the Nick Fury of the universe, and I think that the writer was doing some things based on how Jason David Frank handles Ranger friendships, because he was going to have lots of Rangers side with just his viewpoint on things, but at the same time, remember that the Hurricane Ranger, they had two other Rangers that were called the Beetle Rangers that were kind of like evil in Ninja Storm, and they were kind of like the anti-heroes in Sentai, showing up to kind of help the three Rangers when they were sucking at life.
Yeah.
So these big bad Beetle Rangers would be doing their own thing, and they don't want to be as part of Tommy's, Ranger army. They don't believe in being structured like that. They believe Rangers should be independent, and they should help when they're needed and not to just start fights and do all this other stuff. So Tommy was actually doing missions to like Aquitar and CO32 and like all these different planets and things like that, and like sending these people out to go. When the villains were out doing stuff, Tommy would send in some Rangers to go and face them. So he would call up past Rangers, like maybe Andros, the In Space Rangers would come, drop off some other guys. One of the Lightspeed Rangers was actually going to be the shuttle driver for the Hexagon Rangers. So they were going to incorporate a lot of cameos and things like that from the previous shows.
Yeah.
And
so, it'd become kind of like out of control, like a big military force. Like, you don't even know if you're doing the right thing anymore or not. Yeah, kind of
so
like that.
While Tommy would be the Zordon character, like, with his interpretation of what Zordon was, the Hexagon Rangers needed a mentor. And who is considered the opposite of Tommy in Power Ranger fandom?
You mean the Beetle Rangers would need a mentor?
Yeah, the Beetle Rangers would need a mentor. The opposite of Tommy would be Jason, the mighty Red Morphin Power Ranger, as the not really the leader of these anti-Hexagon Rangers, mind you, more like the Big Brother type, the Captain America, the guy who opposes one way of doing things but still believes in doing good and, protecting the innocents and doing what they can for the little guys.
Yeah.
Not just like going off into space and doing all this weird stuff, like staying close to defend the Earth. That's what he believes.
Yeah, they just wouldn't want to believe in it all corporatized and everything like that. Yeah,
right, where Tommy wants structure, Jason wants like an independent way of life and whatever. So over the course of the show, yes, you would fight like Ninja Storm like people that was from that show, but at the same time they would be going up against not only other bad guys, but clashing ideologies, which is going to be really different. This was going to be the first time in history that a Power Rangers show had the team split. Like the 6 Rangers would be divided. And also they were going to create a third female Ranger, or a second female Ranger, just for this show that did not appear in the Sentai series, and she would side with Jason's team.
Oh, so it'd be like 3 for Tommy's like new recruits, and then it'd be 3 like Beetle Rangers for that Jason would be mentor to. Yeah.
Another interesting aspect that they were going to do, because people loved it so much, was the fight eventually between Tommy and Jason. Now, Tommy secretly, after the destruction of the green powers, which they consider in this universe to be the most powerful Ranger stuff of all time, he would recreate it, mixing it with the Hexagon powers, and he brings back the Green Ranger, but at the same time creates another Green Ranger, which is, of course, the 6th Samurai Ranger or whatever that was in that Ninja Storm series. The guy who played Ken or whatever was going to be like Tommy's like Green Ranger secret agent who's playing both sides to see where they really side with. And at the end of the series, Jason would have to, lead a group against Tommy, and he'd have to fight. So the Red Ranger and Green Ranger were going to fight again, and it was supposed to be the battle to end all battles.
Whoa.
And, based on the outcome, we'd know how the Power Ranger universe was going to be settled. But the original idea was to have Jason defeat Tommy again, like he did before, and Tommy to realize that he's been wrong about stuff, and then the villain that was from the Sentai series of Hurricane Ranger was going to come in and, be like this force that all these Rangers have to, oppose because he's collected all the different villains that, the Rangers have been, Tommy's Rangers have been fighting, corporately and, making them, cower in fear in different parts of the galaxy. Now they've come together and the Rangers have a combined threat they're going to have to fight. But what's interesting is at the end of the show, you wouldn't really know if all the Rangers from both sides actually become a full team. Now, just like the Sentai stuff, when the Hurricane Rangers had to fight a combined enemy, they would get together and, of course, do that. But afterwards, they would always split up.
Yeah.
The Beetle Rangers would go one way.
Sounds like a Marvel movie.
Exactly.
People that don't, really get along or see eye to eye, they have to fight together to face a common enemy. Yeah, exactly.
The most important thing about this series, other than bringing Austin St. John, who was on board for this, supposedly, his representative at the time said he was on board, and a lot of the past Mighty Morphin Rangers, Walter Jones was interested in reprising his role as the Black Ranger, and he would be on Jason's team, whereas a lot of the Zeo Rangers would side with Tommy. So, Rocky, Adam, Tanya, and Kat, even though they were Jason's teammates in Zeo, they still believe Tommy knows what he's doing, so they're part of the Hexagon crew.
Yeah.
Where Mighty Morphin and the Alien Rangers have kind of sided with Jason.
Yeah, I thought it was cool how you were explaining to me that sometimes they'd have to team up, instead of a whole team of 6 Rangers, it'd be 3 and 3. So it would look like a team, but they wouldn't really be a real team. They would just separate afterwards because they wouldn't see eye to eye.
The reason that the ratings probably would have done well at that time, before they did, Ninja Storm, because Power Rangers was trying to become more of a storytelling thing.
Yeah.
Just like how they killed the Pink Ranger in Lost Galaxy, they were trying to do more adult things, to really build up this universe. And with the Hexagon Rangers,
Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
yeah, with the Hexagon Rangers, there was going to be this divide and this thing every week, whose side are you on? Are you on Tommy's side, or are you on the Anti Hexagon Ranger side?
It would definitely make ratings go through the roof. A controversy always makes that happen.
And it also bank on the whole Tommy Jason feud. And both guys really did enjoy the fight scene that they got to do in Power Rangers Turbo the movie, but they really toned down a lot what Jason and Austin wanted to do in the fight, because it was a kids movie.
Wow.
So I mean, they kind of like the idea of their characters clashing, or they did originally when this was conceived. And then, of course, it never happened, and Tommy came back and was the Black Ranger in Dino Thunder.
You were telling me that Disney ended up buying them,
yes.
So then that's kind of why. But you were another really interesting thing is the person that wanted this to happen was one of the writers that wrote most of the shows, and then also the other guy was on board with it.
Robotech.
The Robotech guy.
Tony Oliver was one of the executive producers
the guy
or producers
who was
of Power Rangers.
Rick Hunter.
Rick Hunter, yeah. We'll always remember you as Rick Hunter. I know you went on to do Power Rangers, but you will always be in my heart as
Tony Oliver. Okay, cool.
Rick Hunter from Robotech.
That's so cool that the guy from Robotech ended up doing Power Rangers or making it happen.
He's also trying to make a live-action Voltron movie, something like that.
Who knows? But I guess Disney didn't want that to happen. But I think it really would have helped, because you were telling me that it kind of would have cleared up a lot of controversies. It would have gotten people stopped to argue. They wouldn't be arguing about who's better or whatever. It would just decide that, and then you would also or people would learn to work together at the end of the movie, and then also it would clear up a lot of stuff that made no sense in the universe, and then it would have a clear start. So now we know all the like you were saying, now you would know that all the past Rangers are important and their powers do matter. And also it would just, then you could have like a clear, mission where Power Rangers start over again, kind of as these people, what their purpose is again. Like, okay, they work as kind of like these,
independent
teams, and this is how they work best, because otherwise we saw in the movie why it wouldn't work the other way.
It was going to be a 40-episode series and last about like a season or two.
Yeah.
And, it was a cool idea, but it just didn't really come together. And it was actually done during a time where Saban was struggling financially. I know it's hard to believe, but they were going to use a lot of the old sets they had. They were going to revisit places like Angel Grove, incorporate a lot of past suits. And also, they got the rights to some of the other shows that they were never able to do a full series on. So you'd see like Die Ranger and some other shows that they took villains from actually being either part of the Hexagon crew or being part of Jason's thing, but they would actually be different Rangers. They wouldn't just be different powers like we saw in Super Megaforce and things like that. So they were really going to try to do better with that, so they could just use Sentai footage when a lot of these teams would fight. Because in the Sentai movies, when like Zoo Ranger met Die Ranger, or Zoo Ranger met like Zeo or whatever, they would actually fight. So especially for the first time, what Saban and Tony Oliver and these guys were thinking, we could actually adapt this footage as part of like the Hexagon War. Like, Mighty Morphin fighting Zeo and things like that.
Yeah, and you were also telling me that people who watched the show when they were younger, they were having kids now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like then their kids would understand like why the old Power Rangers was important, and like the kids and parents can kind of like grow up together. It can be like an ongoing thing where the parents and kids can both like the same series. So
out of all the Power Rangers stuff I've ever learned and heard about, this idea had me so excited. And if they can't make a show about it, it's like, why not make a video game? It's like, I would find some way to adapt the Hexagon series, after the mess that was this current series. You could make an entire video game based on just that stuff.
I don't know why Disney didn't decide to do that.
Well,
so
Disney went the complete opposite direction.
And then messed it up even more.
They made it very different.
Yeah.
And they moved everything to New Zealand, too, so then they couldn't have access to their old site.
Wow.
Where they had the stuff in California.
I don't understand that at all. So weird.
Because they didn't actually tear down a lot of the original sets from Power Rangers in case, they needed to do stuff. So.
Yeah, that would have been great. I mean, if you could save money and kind of bring everyone together, that would be great.
So you would have seen Terra Venture again and all kinds of stuff, the Mega Ship, but none of that really happened. Is this body Reggie? This could be bad. That's my pink. You got that right. Your attacks won't work on me. I mean, look at the guy. We're gonna keep fighting
until they do,
because we're awesome.
Yeah, I wonder if they could even do a show like that now, or it's so messed up now.
One of the writers who was behind the Hexagon thing has said recently, after seeing the Megaforce, Legendary Battle, he says everything is so screwed up now that there's no way to say Power Rangers. He says, in all honesty, if you want a universe where everything makes sense and all the loose ends, he says there's no way to do a Hexagon series. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Because it's just, it's a mess. It's a hot mess, is what he said.
Yeah. I'd still want them to try and do it. I mean, but they're never going to, I don't think. If they didn't do it then when they really needed to, I don't know how they're going to do it now.
So yeah, in the comments below, guys, let me know what you think about the Hexagon Rangers, and if you would wanted to see that series, or the idea of Jason and Tommy fighting a battle to end all battle. Green Ranger returns more powerful than ever, and Mighty Morphin Red stands up to him.
Yeah.
That right there sounds pretty awesome. The way that they, I have the original proposed script idea, and the fight between Jason and Tommy, they don't really go into it a lot, but they say that Tommy has been doing some stuff that messed with Rita's evil powers to enhance the Green Ranger powers more than ever before.
Oh my goodness.
So yeah, it was going to be this intense, awesome thing. But
Wow.
it would have been way better than whatever Megaforce or, you know.
I really like the idea of the Beetle Rangers, like, being these kind of, like, silent, like... I'm thinking of the Beetle Rangers, like, kind of like... What am I thinking of them? Kind of like in G.I. Joe, the guy that doesn't talk very much.
Snake Eyes?
Yeah, I don't know why I'm picturing this, but I'm just like picturing
Snake
like
Eyes.
kind of like
Jason
silent.
Has the Snake Eyes
like,
team?
Yeah,
that,
exactly.
okay.
Like silent in the background, but like so like it's like always awesome. Yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm picturing. now.
Keep trying. Now I'm invincible.
The bigger they are, the harder they fall.
That's right. We'll overcome any obstacle. Because we're the Power Rangers. Okay, so, yeah, it's time to go in the Megazord. But the show, I mean, just based on all the stuff that's happened in Power Rangers, it seemed like a really cool thing to do. And I'm kind of bummed that it never happened. But of course, unfortunately, Trini, who was reprised to return in the show, she passed away, like, you know, before really hearing about it from her agent. And there were a lot of other factors that just happened that things just weren't in line, and Disney, and also rumor has it that JDF, his participation was huge, and he wasn't really on board. So they only had some of the Mighty Morphin cast, some of the Zeo people were interested in it, but they hadn't seen a script yet, and some of the returning Time Force guys and some other people knew that it was being written, but they didn't know to the extent that the show would be. They thought it'd be like an offshoot cameo, like something that like Adam Park did, or excuse me, Johnny Young Bosch did in an episode of Power Rangers in Space, where he came back as the Black Ranger from Mighty Morphin and tried to help the Black Ranger from space get his courage back so he could be a good Power Ranger.
Yeah.
Risking his life to use the Morphin Grid. That's the same guy who wrote the concept for this, canceled show idea.
Oh, nice. And it was going to be like 40 episodes, right?
40 episodes. But you have to remember, those 40 episodes, some of those would be two-parters. So, I mean, in a sense, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was only about like 20 or 30 episodes.
Yeah.
They just stretched them into multiple parts.
Yeah, well, I could understand kind of if Jason David Frank didn't want to do it, but I was thinking, man, would he have done it? But I think he would have done it. I mean, like, he'd want the paycheck.
He wasn't doing anything.
He'd want the paycheck. Like, of course he's going to do it. I mean, he did all the other shows, so I'm sure he would have eventually done it.
But yeah, it would have been a really cool thing to see the Rangers fight, because the Sentai, they always fight, and they don't really explain why they fight for the first time. So having them have opposing ideas, would have been amazing.
Would have made sense. And I mean, it wouldn't be, the reality was his character kind of got evilized in some of the old episodes, so it would totally make sense. Like, it wouldn't be any reflection on him.
They were going to explain why Tommy eventually goes crazy a little bit too in this series, because he was evilized as Rita, and then he was evilized again during the Machine Empire, so he still had some of that evil stuff deep in his subconscious.
Yeah, so it wouldn't really be his fault.
No.
It would just be like this thing that happened to him.
And at the end, all the Rangers, they come to an understanding about being independent, and it sets up the next Power Rangers series to be completely independent, and possibly to have team-ups later on, but at least it would have had that that connection to the past.
I think it would have been cool, because maybe Jason David Frank and Austin St. John would have become, gotten to work out their differences in real life too, by doing that. Yeah. It would have been cool if they could have worked together, and then, I don't know. One can dream.
One can dream, yes. One can dream.
Yeah.
But anyway, guys and gals, that's going to conclude our discussion on the Hexagon series that could have been adapted from Hurricane Ranger, and I know I'm saying that wrong, which became Ninja Storm. Let me know what you think about it in the comments below, and feel free to have a discussion about it. I was excited when I came across this when I was studying Power Rangers lore a little while ago, and I still couldn't believe it, so I had to contact some of the people involved. And it was interesting what I heard back from the Ranger Board guys. And the Ranger Board guys, you're awesome. Thank you so much for notifying me about all that stuff. That's fantastic.
Awesome. Yeah, well, thanks for telling me, Kwing, because I did not know about that Hexagon thing, and that is really awesome. I would have totally watched that.
I still think it would make a great video game, especially if they did like a Dynasty Warriors thing. It would be fantastic.
Yeah!
Make it happen, Saban. You owe us.
Gosh.
You owe us for the 20th anniversary.
Make it happen.
Make it happen. Well, anyway, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe for more Power Rangers, and check out our Let's Play channel for even more awesome content. We'll see you later.
See ya.